Currently, we have 64 lactating cows being milked by the robotic system. The weekly average is around 42 liters per cow per day. We've had some peaks of 44 to 45 liters as a weekly average.
The main challenge with the robot is finding a way to combine the feed from the barn with what is given per cow per day, which would be the PMR inside the robot. As I mentioned before, you can have the best technology in the world, but if you don't have good management or can't adjust management practices, milk production won't improve.
Here we have a robot, the VMS. These panels display the amount of milk produced. We also see their milking average, the number of milkings they had in the last 7 days, and their production average from yesterday.
Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the Santafé Agroinstituto Channel on YouTube. I'm here with Rodrigo. We're going to visit his farm and learn about the system he uses. They have a robotic milking system here. Welcome Rodrigo, can you tell us a bit about the farm, where we are, and introduce yourself please?
Hello, my name is Rodrigo, and this farm is called Agropecuaria Schmalz. We are located in the municipality of Augusto Pestana, and we've had a robotic milking system operating here for about 10 months. Currently, we have 64 lactating cows being milked by the robotic system. They are all grouped together, and actually the robot itself manages the nutrition groups. Here is the feeding area for the animals. In the background, we have the bedding area, which is their resting place where they lie down. Here is a waiting room where the animals wait to be milked, and here is the actual milking area. In front of us is the office, and the milk room is right in front, where the extracted product is stored. The milk is collected once a day on the property.
How was this transition, Rodrigo? Why did you choose to use robots?
The lack of labor was a significant factor in making this decision. The lack of skilled labor, which is not cheap, was a key consideration. We had a need or desire to move to a third milking, which would significantly increase labor demand. With the use of the machine, we managed to conduct approximately 2.9 milkings, nearly reaching our goal of 3 milkings with a substantial increase in milk production, around 6 to 7 liters per cow per day. The investment has been very satisfactory for us.
How many animals are being milked?
Currently, 64 animals are being milked.
Is there an average yield?
The weekly average is around 42 liters per cow per day. We've had some peaks of 44 to 45 liters as a weekly average.
How was it before? What was the production like? How many animals did you have?
Before we started with the robotic milking, we had about 60 to 65 cows, which is the number of milking cows we have today. We did 2 milkings per day, one at 5 a.m. and another at 5 p.m. Each milking took about 2 to 2.5 hours. We did this process for each milking. Today, we no longer have that workload. We spend more time monitoring the machine than actually doing the milking. Now the machine does this for us. The average yield was around 36 to 37 liters during the best times of the year, which is winter, our peak production season. So all the increase in production we've seen is due to adding a third milking and providing more comfort for the cows, allowing them to participate more in the milking process themselves with less human intervention.
What challenges did you face during this transition from the old system to the new robotic one?
Initially, adapting the animals was a bit challenging and required a lot of patience from both us and the workers. But once the cows start getting used to the process, entering the waiting room and accessing the stall by themselves, things improve and the system starts running smoothly.
I see. What challenges are you currently facing?
Currently, regarding the machine's efficiency, one challenge is during the early morning hours, when it becomes a bit difficult for the cows to access the stalls because they lie down a lot and rest for long periods during the night. Getting them up and accessing the stalls is somewhat limited at night. Therefore, there's still a need to herd them during the night to ensure a higher number of milkings and achieve almost 3 milkings per cow per day. Another challenge is that the cows feel so comfortable in the feeding stall or the milking stall that when they are fed, they take a bit of time to leave the stall after milking is finished. This slightly reduces the robot's efficiency, as we could achieve a bit more milkings if they were a bit quicker in this process. But this is an adaptation issue, and perhaps with some adjustments it will improve, since the process is still new, only 10 months old. So I believe that over time the cow's transitions and visits to the robot will improve, along with the milking process.
And regarding the quality of the milk, have you noticed any difference?
We have already managed to maintain the total bacterial count, TBC, at a low level, which was already quite good, but we have seen significant improvements in the somatic cell count, SCC.
Do you think this is because the system is automatic and before you had to train the milking staff?
Actually, I believe the reduction in the number of animals with mastitis has significantly contributed to the decrease in SCC.
How did you seek knowledge to work with this system?
We visited several farms that already use the robotic system. Along with technicians, salespeople, and such, we received a lot of information from them and learned a lot from the places we visited. We also learned a lot from the beginning when we started using the machine. The initial average production and milking frequency were lower, but over time, we learned what really contributes to increased milk production, what benefits the animals and us. We've been adapting both the cows and ourselves to this new milking process, continually trying to improve, and we're seeing better results as time goes on.
How do the technicians help you with this new system? How do you incorporate their knowledge into the farm management in the way you work? The technicians who assist you, the consultants who formulates the diet?
With the new milking process, we have a lot more data at our disposal, making it much easier and more tangible to identify the cows that produce the most milk. Sometimes we can be mistaken about which animals are most productive, but having this information readily available makes it easier to assess the results they are truly providing. We can invest in the amount of feed, for example, in animals that are genuinely responding in terms of productivity and increasing milk production. It's much more tangible, providing more information for everyone, including us, the cows, and the technicians who assist us.
Great. So this individual animal data is also making a difference in your decision making?
Yes, we can treat each animal individually. Previously, we only had 2 groups, high and low production groups, and now we have 64 cows being milked, each with a different diet, as we say, because the amounts of concentrate provided by the machine during milking vary for each animal. They receive the amount of feed according to their production, and as long as they are productive, they get an additional concentrate in their diet.
Great. So you mentioned an increase in milk production from an average of 37 to 36 liters?
We've seen an increase of about 6 to 8 liters of milk. It's not quite a year yet, so we can't account for all the data, but from what we've noticed so far, and if this trend continues in the next 60 days, the average increase is around 7 liters in productivity. Of course, there was a slight increase in concentrate feed for some animals that responded well, but the overall productivity increase has been quite significant.
Well, now we're going to talk to the farm's technician. Please introduce yourself and tell us your story. When did you arrive at this farm and what was it like?
My name is Claudio Junior. I've been working as a technical advisor with a degree in veterinary medicine for 10 years, specializing in animal nutrition and management. We arrived at this farm 6 years ago. It already had cows and a compost barn system. We've been working with the robotic system for about a year now. The main challenges we faced with the robot were that no one teaches you how to use it. There are still few studies worldwide, and it's a relatively new technology in Brazil. We have to deal with subtropical climate challenges, such as heat and cow cooling, and management issues. The main benefit is that we gain significantly, especially in a family farming setup where we go from 2.8 or 2.5 milkings. We gain half to a full milking more per cow per day. In terms of nutrition, we consider various factors in our formulations. We've faced 3 consecutive droughts here in Rio Grande do Sul, so our primary forage is corn silage, where we've encountered significant difficulties regarding food quality, low starch levels, and a significant increase in concentrate in the diet to maintain the return on feed costs. The main challenge with the robot is finding a way to combine the feed from the barn with what is given per cow per day, which would be the PMR inside the robot. We've been formulating with a focus on starch, sugar levels in the diet, physically effective fiber, and it also depends on the producer's flow and the raw materials offered today.
How do you seek knowledge in this area, given that it's new in Brazil?
Since it's new in Brazil, we read a lot of articles, mainly Canadian ones, where there are more robots, and we also seek knowledge through courses, especially at Santafé Agroinstituto. The most important thing is to understand cows, knowing the proper management practices for these cows, what they need, and what they are telling us. It's about trying to understand the cows themselves, putting ourselves in their place to find what's best for them. We currently work with 3 nutrition tables in the robot via concentrate, which would be a table for DIM, days in milk, a table for drying off, and a production merit table, where each cow represents a group. We face several challenges, like maximizing milk peaks, which we can achieve very well with the robot, increasing dry matter intake in cows that really need it. The big question is maximizing the peak, focusing a lot on the immediate pre- and postpartum periods to have a stable and significant gain in feed efficiency.
With the experience you've gained day by day, what improvements have you seen compared to 6 or 7 months ago? What has improved on the farm?
6 or 7 months ago, when this started, I, as a technician in Rio Grande do Sul, had practically no experience with robots. Today we're dealing with around 11 robots in the Northwest region. What we knew and read about was different from what we saw in the field. So, I tried to combine both approaches and create our own logic, studying and observing what the cows show us and creating a logical approach. You test the cows, try different work methods, and find what works. Each farm is different. Each challenge is unique. One producer might have 2.8 milkings, while another has 2.4. It's about adapting to the farm's management and what is feasible today. The main thing we've learned is about feeding tables, especially in the first 60 days of DM for both multiparous and primiparous cows. Certain ingredients in the diet have helped increase the number of milkings slightly, but nothing significant. However, it helps a lot when we include products in the concentrate that encourage the cows to come to the milking. What works here might not be the reality elsewhere, so it varies a lot depending on the farm, the available forage, and the current diet.
For someone just starting or arriving at a farm and encountering this new reality, what would you recommend? Where should they start?
I think the main thing is to study. The person will need to seek comprehensive knowledge, read articles, visit many farms that use this system, which is a great way to learn. Sometimes the literature tells you one thing, but field practice can be quite different. Understanding cows and their management is crucial. Always look for good partners to help specialize further and increase efficiency without overcomplicating things. It's about doing the basics well.
And tell us, why did you choose to work with cow nutrition?
I think it's a completely captivating field. When we work with nutrition, we have everything in our hands because it depends on us. But I always say that there are 4 types of diets. Here, I formulate the diet, then pass it on to the feeder, and then there's what the cow actually eats. That's the most interesting part. So, the big challenge is making sure that the feed I formulate actually reaches the cow's mouth. This is the main challenge on farms today. I always say 80% of milk production is management. Nutrition can be done by anyone who is willing to study, take courses, and learn how to formulate diets. But the main challenge we face today is implementing the diet I want on the farm. I think this comes down to management. It requires a lot of study, knowledge, visiting farms, seeking knowledge, and having an open mind to new technologies, always staying updated in the market. On this farm, as you can see, we use a feed dispenser. It's simple. We roughly calculate the silage by weight, so to speak. Once a week, we measure the dry matter and roughly calculate the amount of corn silage consumed using a basket and scale. Today, the diet is simple. It includes corn silage as the base forage, along with cottonseed, protected fat, regular corn, soybean meal, extruded soybean meal, soybean hulls, wheat bran, sugar, a mineral supplement, covering essential vitamins like A, D, E, and additives like monensin, and buffer agents. So it's a basic diet. We try to meet the cow's production needs and capabilities. The producer gets all this milk because they are very good at management. You can see that the feed dispenser is a simple system. We monitor the cows closely, observe their manure, and other factors to adjust the diet accordingly. We look at the milk they're producing and how they're ruminating, how comfortable they are in their daily routine. So, as I mentioned before, you can have the best technology in the world, but if you don't have good management or can't adjust management practices, milk production won't improve. You have to be a good producer and have good technicians who study a lot.
Great. Speaking of challenges, for example, there was a drought last year. How did that affect the diet?
Regarding the diet, the drought we experienced was challenging. When it comes to working with confined cows, our main forage here in the south is predominantly corn silage. There is some pre-dried forage in areas where it can be produced, but it's not very typical in our region. So the main focus is on corn silage. During the drought period, we had silage that produced 1,100 to 1,200 liters of milk per ton of dry matter. In good years, we used to get 1,700 to 1,800 liters per ton of dry matter. This situation forced us to use around 2 to 3 kilograms more concentrate because the forage wasn't providing enough. It pushed us to challenge the cows more, because the more concentrate we add, the more we challenge the cows, as they are ruminants. So, the main approach is to adjust according to the reality. We've had 3 years of bad droughts, so where we once had a higher average, we now have a lower average due to the poor quality of silage and fiber.
Well, I'm Andressa Binsfeld, a veterinarian, and I've been working on this farm for a short time. I work alongside veterinarian Julio, who is the nutritionist, assisting with management and a bit of nutrition as well. Here we have a robot, the VMS. These panels display the amount of milk produced. For example, there was an expectation for a cow to produce 12.9 liters, but she is still producing around 11.4 liters and is still being milked. Each quarter refers to a specific teat being milked and the amount of milk produced per teat. This panel also provides information about the farm as a whole, including the number of cows in the barn, cows that have been released, cows that have been milked, the weekly average, and the total liters of milk produced on the farm. On this farm, we have some fluctuations in production, so there's a difference between the robot's production and the tank's production, which is being adjusted. We have some data here regarding the milking process. We can also adjust the cow's stall here. The size of the stall adjusts automatically based on the cow's size, but we can manually adjust it if needed. We can also provide more feed to the animal if necessary. This system includes all the cleaning and temperature controls. It provides all the animal's information, including the permission time, liters produced in 7 days, and the reproductive status of the cow. So there's a lot of information we can access just from the robot's panel.
And how do these data help you as a nutritionist when formulating diets?
We always say that one of the positive aspects of the robot is that we get daily milk measurements. In a farm without a robotic system, it's a bit more challenging. We can measure milk production maybe once or twice a month. But here we have daily milk measurements. These measurements help us mainly in formulating diets, creating milk production tables, and tracking DIM, days in milk. It helps us determine if a cow is reducing milk production, if she's sick, or if something else is happening at that time. So, this daily measurement is very helpful. In these panels, not here but on the computer, we can also see the MDI for each cow. MDI stands for Mastitis Detection Index. It measures 3 things: blood, conductivity, and production. This helps us identify if a cow has mastitis in any of her quarters or if there are any changes that require the producer's attention. We also get daily DIM data, the peak production of these cows, and other information that we wouldn't typically have daily on a conventional farm without robots. This makes it much easier for us to manage the right amount of feed, work with PMR, partial mixed ration, in the barn, and so on. As you can see from the robot panel, we also have all the farm data on the computer, which is very convenient. We can see all the cows being milked, the number of lactations they have, their daily DIM, their reproductive status, and make reproductive decisions based on this. We also see their milking average, the number of milkings they had in the last 7 days, and their production average from yesterday. We also track each cow's production levels and check if any have decreased their milk output, allowing us to understand why this happened. We also have peak production averages, which is very interesting to see at what point in their DIM they reach their peak, and if we can adjust the diet for these cows postpartum. We monitor each cow's concentrate intake and expect them to consume all the concentrate provided. Some may show a red flag here, indicating they consumed less, which alerts us to investigate why. We always aim for them to consume 80–90% of the offered concentrate. We have monthly feeding plans and reproduction reports. And in terms of nutrition, we work with up to 3 feeding tables. One table for dim, another for production, and a third for drying off. For dim, we manage them until they reach 70 days, providing them with a specific amount of feed. After 70 days, they move to a production table. At this point, they are categorized by their daily milk production, which is another table we use. As these cows approach their drying off period, they transition to another table to reduce feed intake, facilitating a lower milk production as they dry off. This system provides us with a lot of data, which we might have but not always recorded or readily available. This greatly helps us as nutritionists in making decisions to increase production and maintain the health of these cows on the farm.
Andressa, I'll ask you the same question I asked your colleague. Why did you choose to be a nutritionist?
That's a tough question to answer, but I think it came from experience. In college, I wasn't working with this field. I started working with milk quality and udder health. Over time, you see that everything is interconnected, especially considering the cow's immunity. SCC, somatic cell count, is closely related to the cow's nutrition, health, and well-being. That's when I started to become passionate about nutrition, realizing that I needed it to keep the cows healthy. So now, I focus solely on dairy cow nutrition.
And where do you seek knowledge? How do you improve in your profession?
I have completed 2 postgraduate courses and am currently pursuing another in nutrition. So it's mainly postgraduate courses and specialized training, mostly through Santafé Agroinstituto. I've taken several courses there. We always try to read at least 1 or 2 articles per week. Our routine is quite busy, so we don't always manage to do this. I'd like to read an article every day, but that's not the reality. So we always seek out articles, postgraduate courses, and specialized training. And we also learn a lot from colleagues. We always help each other and share experiences. Because beyond books, field experience is very important. What you read in a book doesn't always translate perfectly into field practice. So sharing experiences is very valuable.
Who is your go-to reference when it comes to robotic milking?
We often refer to Trevor's articles, and especially books, such as those from NASEM. Mike Hutchins' book also touches on robotic milking. Professionals from Canada are another key source. These are the references we try to follow as they best fit our reality.
How do you think it would have been if you had had training and information on robotic milking from the beginning?
If we had this knowledge earlier, the adaptation process would have been quicker. Of course, a lot depends on the animals, not just us. We would have been better prepared to handle the animals. As it was, we had to learn by trial and error.
Hello, my name is Gustavo Flores Zielinski. I'm a veterinarian with a postgraduate degree in dairy cattle nutrition. Whenever we look for knowledge about robotic milking and AMS systems, about nutrition or management, we find the reference of Dr. Trevor, a Canadian who is one of the greatest researchers in the world. It's a unique opportunity for Santafé Agroinstituto to bring you an online course. Take advantage of this opportunity.